All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar on implementing technology in the K-5 classroom, intentional use of technology to transform instruction. While you're here, you can use the chat area to the right of the video. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and your role in education while we get started. If you have any questions during the webinar, you can use that same chat area to the right of the live stream. Also, please remember an on-demand version of this webinar will be available at this same YouTube link immediately after this webinar is over, so you can tell your friends. You can also visit forward-edge.net/webinars for all of our webinar recordings. Feel free to share what you're learning on Twitter with the hashtag FEK12. Let's get started. First of all, my name is Michael Roush. I am a technology integration specialist here at Forward Edge. Natalie Reinhardt is going to be joining us a little bit later on today, and we will be probably sharing some links as one of us is presenting. The other one can be kind of hanging out in the chat area to help out as well. If you have any questions, don't forget that's there on the YouTube page as well. Ask your questions, share your own ideas in the group chat as well. We are all here to learn from each other. Let me tell you a little bit about Forward Edge. Forward Edge is a K-12 technology company. And when I say that, I mean we really do all things technology for schools, including selling hardware, setting up and managing wireless networks. We even have our own cabling team that runs cables to hang access points, move projectors. But a little over 3 years ago, we began to focus heavily on the curriculum and integration side, so that once you have that technology in teachers' and students' hands, answering that question of how you can really use it effectively. So in that C&I department, we all come with an education background and classroom experience. In short, we offer visioning and planning services. We provide professional development. We serve as on-site integration coaches to schools. So with that in mind, let's get started. We always like to talk a little bit about the ISTE standards that our tools that we use for these webinars are going to really focus on. Here are the ISTE standards for educators, and I got to be honest, when I started looking through all the tools that we were going through for this system, it was really hard to boil this down to just a couple of these. You are going to see tools and you're going to see approaches during this webinar that really address a wide swath across the ISTE standards for educators. So if you're here looking for tools to help you with any of these, learner, leader, citizen, collaborator, designer, facilitator, analyst, any of those that you're looking for, you're going to find something that will help you during this webinar today. I'm going to say the same thing for the student standards as well. If you're not familiar with the refresh of the student standards a couple years ago, take a look into those. Dig into those. There's a lot of great stuff in there. You may look through those and realize that, hey, you know what? My students are great in some of these areas, but there are a few of these areas that maybe my students don't get as much in, or maybe it's something that we've thought we just don't really want to or need to address. Take a look at the refreshed student standards. You are going to see some stuff in this webinar today that's going to address all of these standards for the students we work with, not just K-5, but really K-12. The examples we're going to use today primarily come from K-5. Hang with us if you're not in the K-5 classroom right now, because you'll still see things that you can use in your classrooms. We're going to start by talking a little about the SAMR model and how it may be different from some other models that you're used to and how it uniquely applies here. The SAMR model was started by Dr. Ruben Puentedura as kind of a framework, a way of explaining how technology integration either happens or doesn't happen in the classroom. It is not it's not really a replacement or an improvement on other models. It's just another way of explaining and another framework to use to describe how technology integration happens in the classroom. There are several others that you may be familiar with. You may be familiar with Bloom's taxonomy. You may be familiar with the technology integration matrix or some of these other systems. This is not a replacement for those. It's just another way to look at them as we talk about how technology gets implemented in the K-5 classroom. So specifically, when we talk about the SAMR model, SAMR stands for substitution, augmentation, modification, or redefinition. Substitution is when we're simply using technology as a direct substitute for what we've always been able to do before. Augmentation is where the tech acts as a tool substitute, but there are a few functional improvements, maybe some things that work a little smoother or a little bit more efficiently along the way. But we really haven't changed much about instruction. Those two levels are what Dr. Puentedura calls the enhancement level. We've used tech, we're implementing technology, we're not really integrating technology with what we're doing. Once we get to those deeper levels, the modification and redefinition levels, that's when instruction really becomes transformative. That's when we're able to do things like, you know what, if we did not have this technology in place, this is something we simply would not be able to do, or it would be extremely difficult for us to do these. So those modification and redefinition levels are important. You can be at any level of these, and you may find yourself moving back and forth between these levels all on the same day, even in your technology integration. But it's important to realize how we need to spend some time at each one of these levels. And if we find ourselves spending too much time in the substitution and augmentation levels, it may be time to push forward and look at ways that we can modify or completely redefine. We can transform our instruction using technology. Here's another way of looking at it. If you are a coffee drinker like I am, substitution is that simple, plain old cup of coffee that you come to rely on all the time. But once we get up to the modification and redefinition levels, there we may be getting into our caramel macchiatos and our pumpkin spice. That's where we're really kind of doing things that just really weren't possible before with the technology. So if you've got a cup of coffee in front of you right now, think of that cup of coffee every time you think about this SAMR model. It is becoming more and more widely known that this phrase, the digital native, is really just a myth. There are more studies that are coming out now that are showing that the younger generation really does use technology just the same way as other generations have used it. And they are really no better at multitasking than anybody else is. They just kind of think they are. They're great at skipping from one thing to the next, but they're not necessarily so great at multitasking and keeping that attention span going. We tend to think that because they were born in a world that already had the iPad, that they were born knowing how to use it. And that really isn't the case. They may be more apt to try things and more apt to retry things when what they tried doesn't work, but they don't necessarily already know how to do these things. And so it's important that we put the kind of tools and supports in place to help them go to those deeper levels. They're not born with it. They're not better at multitasking, and they still just become content consumers when we let them. And so we can use the SAMR model and some of these tools we're going to talk about to really develop enhanced collaboration, both between our students and ourselves as educators, and between students and the rest of the world when we create authentic audiences, and we can help them to become content creators instead of just content consumers as we move through this system. So we're going to talk about some tools that are going to help you out with this process. And as we get started with these tools, I'm going to turn it over to Natalie to get started with our first tool, Flipgrid.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael. As he mentioned, I am going to be highlighting Flipgrid today, which is a really excellent and popular tool among K-5 teachers. If you haven't heard about Flipgrid yet, then at some point you probably will. Flipgrid is a video response tool, and it allows students to have video discussions with the teacher as well as with other students. The platform is engaging, free, and easy to use on any device, making it, as I said, a very popular choice for K-5. So getting started with Flipgrid is very easy. You simply begin by visiting flipgrid.com and selecting Sign Up Today. If you don't already have an account, signing up is easy. You would simply verify your Google or Microsoft email address and then complete some general information. Once you're logged into Flipgrid, the first step that you're going to take is to create your grid. You can think of your grid as your community of students or your class. So if you have multiple groups of students because you're a technology teacher or you are departmentalized, you can create multiple grids for those different groups. Those of you who have used Flipgrid in the past but maybe haven't revisited it recently, this is something new that they've allowed. Previously, that was something that you had to pay for. So now you can have multiple grids. Once you create your grid, you will be directed to the grid launchpad as seen here. Here you will be able to set some important preferences for your grid community. Notice you have a few choices for your community type. If you select school email domain, that means that your students will simply need to sign in or confirm their school email to access your grid. That third option that you see there, PLCs and public grids, you might use this to create a grid for a group of teachers that could then be used as a discussion platform within a PLC. So Flipgrid doesn't just have to be for students. It can be used for teacher collaboration as well. The student ID list choice for the community type is what I'm going to highlight here. What that allows is it allows you to get a set of generated QR codes for students to use to access Flipgrid. And this is an excellent option for our younger students or for students who are using shared devices. Once you select your grid community type, you'll just fill out the remaining fields. Notice that you can give it a unique flip code. It will automatically generate a flip code for you, or you can create your own. So this that you see here, right next to where it says available, this is the exact link that students will need to access your grid. So if they will be typing this into a browser, you're going to want to choose a code that is unique to your class and easily remembered. And then you can customize your grid by visually by selecting a picture or uploading your own photo as seen at the bottom. Now you'll need to import your student info so that QR codes can be generated. You're given a couple of options for how to do that here, or you can just enter your students manually. The identifier section there, that is where you can put your student's ID number, or if you don't want to put anything, Flipgrid will actually automatically generate a random combination of letters and numbers for each student. Once your students are entered, you can print their individual QR codes, their cards that you see here. And this is something that Flipgrid creates for you. And then when students access the link to your grid, they will then be prompted to scan this code to log in. All right, so now that once your grid is created, you can begin to create topics. And you can think of topics as activities or prompts for student response. Flipgrid will automatically generate a couple for you to get you started, which is that ideas and welcome topic that you see here. To create a new topic, you would click on that plus new topic button. And then when you create a new topic to go into your grid, you'll have a few sections of information to complete in order to customize it to fit your preferences. So the first section is pretty self-explanatory. You're just naming your topic, and you're going to include the activity description or the question that you want students to respond to. I do want to point out a couple of sections within this topic setup that could potentially be pitfalls to avoid later. One of them is this section 2. So since Flipgrid is a discussion tool by default, students can view each other's videos as they are uploaded. But if you are more comfortable viewing student responses prior to making them available to the rest of the class, then you're going to want to use this section 2 topic privacy to turn on video moderation. So this will require you to view and approve videos before they are posted for student viewing and response. In section 4 of 7 of that topic setup, you have the option to upload a topic resource. Now, this is an option. It is not required, but for younger students, I think this feature could be highly beneficial. So if you have emerging readers in a K-1 classroom, for example, who may struggle with reading that topic description or that question that you've posted for them to respond to, or even if you just have a group who's accessing Flipgrid for the first time and they're just not familiar with what to do, you could actually record a video as a topic resource, giving your students instructions or modeling for them exactly what you expect them to do when they record their own video. Now, these next couple slides are going to give you an idea of what access will look like from the student perspective. So when students access your Flipgrid link, they will be prompted to scan their QR code. And when they click on that QR code icon that you see there, once they scan their code, they will be prompted to add a video by clicking on the green and white plus sign. And then going back to the teacher view, you can review activity on your grid and approve videos by accessing the Activity tab found at the top of the page in your Flipgrid account. So if you have video moderation turned on, you would go to Activity and then access recent videos to view those videos and approve them to appear in that student feed. Another really, really exciting feature in Flipgrid is the Disco Library. So the Disco Library is where you can explore topic templates that other educators have created. So from here, you can actually filter options out, as you can see where that arrow is pointing, where you can find a topic, subject, the goal, and you can select an audience to find a topic that you're looking for to add to your own grid. So not only is Flipgrid a highly engaging tool that sparks discussion amongst your students, but it also provides you with the opportunity to contribute to those discussions and provide them with valuable feedback via a customizable rubric. The opportunities to utilize this platform and give every student in your classroom a voice really are endless. Some topic ideas just to get you started might be using Flipgrid as a book review or a reading response tool. Students could use Flipgrid as an exit ticket, or if you're a math teacher, think of using it as a number talk where students can explain their thinking when working through a math problem. They can even view the videos of their peers and critique their peers' thinking and processing and working through a math problem. Keep in mind, though, with Flipgrid that particularly for our young students who are not accustomed to a tool such as this one, it is going to take a little bit of practice for them to feel comfortable with the process and idea of responding via video. But once your students are used to it, once you give them a little bit of exposure, I think you'll be amazed at the insight that you gain from listening to the varied perspectives of the students in your class. All right, so let's shift gears now into talking about another exciting tool known as Seesaw. Seesaw is a free digital portfolio platform accessible on any device that allows students to take pictures, draw, record videos, and more to capture their learning in a digital portfolio. Teachers have the opportunity with Seesaw to find and create activities to share with their students, and families can have access to their child's work. They can leave comments and they can give their students encouragement. So to set up an account on Seesaw, you would just begin by going to seesaw.me and selecting I'm a teacher. Once you follow a couple of simple steps to set up your class, you have some options for adding students. So you can choose to have them sign in using their Google account or email address. And the good news, particularly for our early childhood teachers out there, or any teachers with students with shared devices, you also have the option to allow students to access Seesaw using a QR code. And to utilize this option, you would simply choose shared devices when prompted, as seen on the right. After you add your students to your class, and you'll be prompted to do that on the previous page right after you set up, and you can do that by pasting a list of student names, or you can just enter them manually, whichever is easy for you. But after you add all of your students, you'll be given some directions on how to get your students logged in, and that's what we're looking at here. So from here, notice you can print a student sign-in poster to post in your room that displays the QR code for student access. Now, if it were my classroom of elementary students, I would likely print that poster, but I would also likely use that QR code to create an individual login card for each of my students, just to streamline that process of logging in a bit. This is the main page that you will see as the teacher every time that you log into Seesaw. Student posts will appear in a feed on the left where it says Browse Activity Library. From here, you can also access that activity library, and that is where you can explore shared resources and activity ideas to share with your students. So kind of like the Disco library in Flipgrid, there's an activity library in Seesaw. Notice there's an Add Families button in the bottom right-hand corner there. Clicking this will give you some options and step-by-step guides for giving families access to their child's portfolio. In the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see a little wrench icon. You're going to want to access that to customize the setting for your Seesaw account for your class. And clicking that green and white plus gives you a couple of options. But anytime you or your students see this plus sign, that is the button for adding an item to a portfolio. When your students click on that green and white plus sign, they will be given the following options to post to their journal. So they can take a video of their work. They could take a photo of their work, excuse me. They could take a video reflection of themselves. They could draw a picture, add a file, make a note, which is basically just like a typed note, and they can add a link to post to their journal. Now, going back here, I want to point out, I think that you're going to find when you explore that activity library that many activities actually require students to create multiple artifact types. So there might be an activity that requires them to not only create a drawing, but also label it and then take a photo and then maybe even have a video reflection. So there's multiple steps there. And I think that that's fine and that's great. But I think to begin, using Seesaw with your students, particularly with your K-1 students, if you're an early childhood teacher, try to allow your students to get accustomed to each of these artifact submissions individually. That way they're not too overwhelmed by learning to do too many types all at once. This is an example of a drawing where a student has illustrated the life cycle of a butterfly. Now, once students create an item, they will be prompted to explain and reflect. I really think this is a key step in Seesaw because it gives students the opportunity to consider how the artifact they have created demonstrates their learning. With young students, I think that this explain and reflect piece will require a little bit more modeling and repeated practice before they fully comprehend the expectation for what should be included here. Now, once students have completed their artifact and they've explained and reflected, they will then be asked to select their name. And then in order to add the item to their portfolio, they will click on that green and white check mark. So Seesaw is used in different ways by different teachers. So I want to take some time to summarize just a few of the possibilities for making it a part of your classroom. Feel free to choose the approach that is right for your group of students, or perhaps adopt one that is a combination of the following goals. So Seesaw is often used by teachers for student feedback and reflection. So if you choose to modify your settings in Seesaw to allow students to see each other's work and even allow them to comment on each other's work, and those posts will upload to the class journal. This gives students the opportunity to present their work to an authentic audience of peers, which can encourage them to do their best. And if the idea of peer sharing and feedback doesn't work for your students, you can modify your settings to where students they don't have the access to view each other's work and to comment. So teachers will turn off that student visibility option, and they'll use Seesaw as more of an assessment piece, and students will actually complete assignments in a more private way. In doing this, you can create an activity and give direct private feedback to students when they turn in via Seesaw. And then for some teachers, Seesaw is used primarily for family engagement. In this regard, students will add posts in a more self-directed way. And this can motivate young students to do better work because they know their families will view it and likely provide immediate feedback. In this respect, Seesaw also provides you with an opportunity to share student progress on a regular basis with your parents, and to even, bring out those portfolios for parent-teacher conferences. So for more information on Seesaw, I would encourage you to visit help.seesaw.me. Now I'm going to turn it over to Michael to talk about another amazing tool that I believe will pique the interest of all of our K-5 teachers out there, regardless of content area.
Thank you very much, Natalie. You have already given us some great tools to go through. These are tools that we already know that teachers that we work with that are using them successfully in K-5 classrooms every day. So these are things that we've actually, that we see all the time. We see these tools making a big impact. One of my absolute favorites for a long, long time that I would like to talk about now, and it's one that has had some changes made to it. Some improvements have been made to it recently. So we thought it would be a good one to add to this webinar to go over some of those changes as well, is one called Book Creator. There's a couple different forms of Book Creator that are out there now. There used to be just the iOS app version of this that was available. There was also then an Android version. So there was an iOS app and there was an Android version. And that's what you had to work with. They eventually came out with a version, a web-based version, and that web-based version has now replaced the Android app. The iOS app is still available. They function a little differently. We're going to take a look at some screenshots from the web-based version now. If you go to bookcreator.com, you will find a sign-in page, and you'll find some sample materials there that you can get started, you can look at before you get started with Book Creator. Book Creator is going to do just exactly what it says. It lets you create, publish, and read your own created books. Books that you create, books that your students create. You're going to be able to take those all the way from concept to publishing and get those to a global audience, that authentic global audience we talked about earlier. When you sign in, you'll have a couple options in the web version. For the student sign in, they can sign in with Google. They can sign in with Office 365. They can sign in with a QR code that when a teacher sets up their account, they can create for their class to use. They can sign up with their Clever account if they have one of those as well. There is a big difference between the student accounts and the teacher accounts. Teachers can set up a free account. They get one library or one collection that books can go in, and they can keep up to 40 books in that collection. Again, this is for the web version. Students can only create books inside of a teacher's library. So that's why that sign in with either with Google, with Office 365, or with that QR code is important, because the students can then, the books that they create are inside of a teacher's library. And again, each teacher can have one free library that can hold up to 40 books at a time. Once you've created your library and you begin creating books in that library, your library shows all the books that you have going on available at any one time. So you can scroll through those and you can see all of those. They're titled. They have a title. They have a name as far as who's been created, who kind of owns them, whose account owns them. And you can scroll through those and see those and open those up and use them once you get into your library. To create a new book, you get a lot of different options. Your page shape can be portrait, that's a 2:3 ratio. They can be square, or they can be a landscape 4:3 ratio. So depending on what kind of book you're creating, you might choose one of those 3 different layouts. If you want comic panels already set up so that there will be blocks with a forced white space around them, you can use any one of those three layouts, portrait, square, or landscape, with comic panel layouts in them as well. So you choose any one of those layouts for your book. Once you've chosen a layout, there's your blank page. And now you can start adding things. Adding things is done with the plus button in the upper right-hand corner. And you have a lot of different options for what you can add. You can add media. And media comes in the terms of importing something. You can use your device's built-in camera to add audio, to add pictures, or to add video. Remember, these are ebooks that we're creating, so you can include video. You can bring up a pen tool so that you can draw. You can bring up a text tool, obviously, so you can add text into the books that you're creating. You can also bring up a microphone tool so that you can record audio on the pages of your book as well. You might do that for additional tips in your book. You might create your own text to speech. You might create your own spoken versions of the books, but we'll take a look at another tool in a minute that will help you with that as well. You can also add shapes to your pages. So if you want to add little embellishments of shapes and change the colors of them, you can add those onto your page as well. The information block lets you change the background color of your page. You can also change some comic layouts here. You can change border styles. You can add some patterns or textures to your pages as well. So you can use this to make the pages look any way you like. Here I've added some text to this page, and now the information block at the top changes to allow me either to change the look of the page or to change the look of the text. I can use the plus minus slider to change the size of the text in the block that I've added. It also tells me what point size that text is. I can have that text left, center, right, or justified aligned inside of my text box. I can have that text bold, italicized, or underlined. I have a lot of different font choices, a lot of different colors. I can have a background color just on that block. I can add a drop shadow to that text. And as with any graphic program that you might be used to using, I can organize the layers. So if I need one thing to be in front of or behind another, I can move things to the back or to the front. This is also where I would go to delete something that I need to do. One other item that I would like to point out is the green circle at the top of the text. That is a handle that can be used. You can click and drag that around to rotate the boxes that you've added to your page as well. So once I've added some of those features, my text and page might look like this. As long as all of my text fits inside of the square, I know that it will fit inside of the block that I've created. So in just a few clicks, I've been able to create this fantastic cover for the book that I want to be making. That book then goes in my library, and I can do all sorts of things to it with it once it's there. The library option allows me, the library button allows me to import books that I've got from other sources. I can move them to other libraries if I have additional libraries to use. I can make a copy of that book. So if I need to edit it, but I don't want to lose the original, I can make a copy of that book. Please remember that does, if you're using the free account, that does count as another one of your 40. I can combine books. I can also delete a book from here. So if I have reached my limit and I need to get rid of some books so I can create some new ones, I can delete books from this section as well. If I don't want to completely delete a book, I do have some other options. I can go to the middle, the share button that's on this. I can publish a book online. That will give me a URL that I can give to people to access my book online. A pro feature, the paid premium feature, you can collaborate. But now I can, here and on this one, I can also download my creation as an ebook. So if I have completely finished a book and I know that I'm not going to change it anymore, but I need that space in my library, I might download a book that I've created as an ebook so that I've got it. I can still use it when I need it, but then I can delete it from that library to free up that space. I can also set up one of my books to be able to print if I want to do a print version of my book. Keep in mind, if you've used any video or audio features in your ebook, those will be represented by placeholders in the book that you print. So here's an example of one of my ebooks that I have created to be printed. Once it is shared to be able to be read online, notice I have another option in the upper right-hand corner. The Book Creator web version now includes a read to me option. So without adding my own text to speech, the system, Book Creator, the web version, will automatically do its own read to me option. And so I can click that and it will read the text blocks for me. There are two different voices. There's a male and female voice that it will use. Those are available under the gear icon, so you can change the settings if you need to change that. But it will read the text, and then if you have any multimedia content in your page, such as a video or an audio, it will automatically play those through one time as it reaches them. So you can use this as a great way to help support emerging readers with the books that their peers create, with books that you create, even with books that they create, to go back and listen to the material that they have created. If you're wondering about pricing on Book Creator for Chrome, please note this pricing information is accurate as of this recording, may change in the future. If you're trying it for free, you get one library, 40 books that you can use in your classroom. For $60 per teacher per year, you can have that as 3 libraries that can each have 60 books. For $120 per teacher per year, you can have 10 libraries that can each have 100 books. And with any of those paid versions, you also get real-time collaboration and support for co-teachers so that 2 different teachers, several teachers can share a library of books. If you want to look into getting Book Creator for your entire building or for your entire district, you can contact them about that as well. They would be more than happy to help you out. But go ahead and get started with the free version and see the power of what you can do and just how quickly you can create books and you can create ebooks with Book Creator for Chrome or with Book Creator for the iPad. The iOS version is still available. It manages its libraries completely separately. You can get the free version, which lets you edit and maintain only 1 book at a time. You can, as you finish them, export them and then delete them and delete the material in them and go back and create another one. Or as of the time of this recording, the full paid app for the iPad is $4.99, and that lets you create and maintain unlimited books on the device you're using it on. Book Creator is a fantastic tool for creating your own content, for managing your own content, doing some amazing things. What can you make a book about in Book Creator? Well, whatever you can make a book about, you can make a book about in Book Creator. You might use it as a learning journal or a portfolio. You might use it to create student-created textbooks, maybe a field trip memory book. Use it to create your own book of student-written poetry. Use it to create social stories for some of your students who need support for situations that are unfamiliar to them and they have some behavioral struggles with. Literally anything you could make a book about, you can use Book Creator to make a book. Now let's shift gears just a little bit here. We're going to go talk about another utility called Scratch Junior. Scratch Junior is a coding utility that were built for young children, and it really reduces the amount of reading skill that is needed. Think of a Candyland version of coding, where a lot of the reading load has been reduced. Scratch, the original Scratch, is a blocks-based programming language that a lot of kids use in maybe middle school, maybe even high school to start learning coding. Scratch Junior uses that same formula, that same concept to help kids more about the ages of 5 to 7 even get started with coding. You can create your own interactive stories, your own games. You do not access this directly through the web. There are apps either for iOS or Android. There's an app for Kindle that you can use this on a Kindle Fire. There is also an extension for the Chrome Web Store that lets you run Scratch Junior as well. So once you've got that installed for whatever your platform is, you can be off and running with Scratch Junior to learn coding. The splash screen, initial screen, is pretty simple. You can either go to the home screen or you can go to the help menus. So if we go to the home screen, here's a list of our projects that we have ready to go. Projects are as simple to start as clicking the plus sign on a new project and get going. You start with one little character in there, and that's the little orange cat that Scratch users will be familiar with. And then you have these little blocks that you can drag together to create your program. They are color-coded so that a color grouping does a certain type of action within your program. The blue ones are movement. They make your character move in certain ways. So you can choose lots of different characters to put into this. There are lots of pre-built, pre-made characters. You can also edit some of these. So if you need to change colors on something or you need to do something a little different with one of the pre-mades, you can do some editing on them as well. But you choose any of those characters to add to your scene to program. You can also change the backgrounds. You can include several backgrounds and shift between them as you're working on different things. So you can have lots of different backgrounds going on in your program as well. Here is one. I've looked for one called Winter. I've selected that one, and I'm going to add that one as the background to my program now. So now that scene is completely created, and I'm ready to program my character to do some different things. I'm going to move the character down to the lower hand corner, and I've started with, in the yellow, those are some control blocks, and I've pulled in the one for the green flag. That just tells it, whatever I hook to this green flag now, I want those actions to happen when the green flag at the top of the screen is clicked. So there's that green flag. Now, what do I want it to do? Let's take a look through some of the other blocks that we have available. The purple blocks control the look of what's going on. So maybe I might have him say something, or I can use the next few to change his size. I can make him bigger. I can make him smaller. I can change what outfit he's wearing. I can edit him a little bit to change that. So I can use those blocks to change his appearance. The green blocks are audio blocks. I can add in some sounds that are already recorded, or I can use my own microphone to record a sound that might be executed at a certain time. The orange ones are events, and so I might have him stop. I might have him pause for a little bit. I might change his speed. And then one of the real strong features of this is it introduces the concept of loops. And so I have this loop block in here as well that I can use to make it repeat a certain action a certain number of times. And so if I need him to move forward and jump, and I need him to do that 10 times, I don't have to drag all those blocks in that many times. I put them in a loop, and then I can tell the loop how many times to happen. The red blocks are my stop blocks, where I can tell the program to either stop, or I can tell the program to repeat. Back to the event, the initiation blocks that are at the beginning, I can have events happen when the green flag is started. I can have something happen when a character is clicked on. I can have something happen when one of the characters runs into another character. The last two blocks are messages. Now, messages are not direct. They're not text. They are just events that happen. So when the orange message is received, is the envelope, the first one that you see there. The next one is that the orange message is sent. So if I want a character to wait until something else happens before he does something, I can have my cat character send the orange message, and then maybe my dragon character is going to pop into the scene when he receives the orange message. So this is a great way to start doing some cause and effect pieces in your programming with students as well. Here I have my little cat set onto a beach scene. And at this point, what's going to happen is when the green flag is clicked, he's going to move forward one step. He's going to jump into the air 6 units high. And that process is going to repeat 4 times. That's the loop that you see. When the character is clicked on, he's going to jump 5 times, and he's going to change outfits. So you see several different things that are going to happen there when different things are happening, and that is all based on just dragging the different blocks into the programming area. You can do so much with that to learn about different programming options, and the kids pick it up very quickly. Another option that I want to talk about right now very quickly is Doink's green screen app. Green screen technology has become very popular as the technology has become cheaper and much more attainable. And so I get a lot of questions about how do I get started with green screen. There are a lot of different options for using this out there. I wanted to talk about this one in particular, even though Doink's green screen is really just available for iOS. So if you're not using iOS at this point, you're going to have to find a slightly different option. Doink's green screen is only available for iOS, but this is by far one of the easiest that I have found to use to get started with. When you get started, you have 3 video tracks at the bottom that you can use, and we'll explain what those do here in just a second. You can save videos, or you can use it just to take still pictures. And those 3 video tracks at the bottom let you pick what you want to add. The way I try to remember this is the bottom one, B for bottom, B for background. So I want to put my background image on the very bottom one of this. So a lot of times that will be an image, but you can actually put video or something on there. The Do Ink one all the way at the end, there is a complete suite of tools. You can get a Do Ink animator that you can create information, or you can create pictures with to add here as well. But you can take any image from your camera roll and put it here. So if I hit that plus and I use the image, I might take a picture of the White House that I have on my device. I might select that one and use it and add it to the background. Now the middle one, the M is for middle, M is for me. So that is where I'm going to put a person, me, or whoever else I want to be in this scene. At this point, you can see I have my video camera there. It's on my my green screen with a little cardboard standee sitting there in the screen. So you can see that that's there. Now, once the chroma key or the green screen effect is applied, all of the green part gets replaced with whatever the background image is. So now I can make it look like my little cardboard standee is out there in front of the White House. I can have kids in there and have them look like they're standing in front of the White House and giving me an on-the-scene report from their location. This makes it so easy to add those in, and it can do those in just a few taps of the screen. You can do some absolutely amazing things with that. Let me also mention that as of the time of this recording, the Do Ink green screen app for iOS is $2.99. There is not a free version of it available. So, but it's a great way to get started. As far as the green screen itself, I should also probably mention there is really nothing special about that screen. It is just a simple polyester cotton fabric. We have them that are either hanging on rails, or you can hang them on a curtain rod. And as long as you've got a room that's fairly well lit, you can do some amazing things with green screen technology, using the equipment, using the technology you've already got available. If you've got an iPhone or an iPad with a camera in it, one of those devices that will let you shoot a photo or video right in front of your green screen. You can do it. You can do some amazing things with all of these tools that we have that we've been talking about during this webinar today. I want to take just a couple more minutes now. If you have any questions or any other comments, go ahead and throw those into the chat right now. I want to do a few little cleanup items here at the end. Wanted to mention our new micro-credential system, EduU badges, where you can really superpower your district's professional learning by offering a micro-credential system. Teachers can choose what they want to learn. They can look through a lot of different badges. We have many different badges available that people can look at and learn on their own time, starting with some simple skills, some things that are very commonly used skills, like doing screenshots, managing the Chrome browser, managing your Google Drive, on up to some really higher level topics of interest that we have badges about now. And so lots of different levels that you can earn, lots of gamification involved, things that you will also use right away in your classes. In order to earn a lot of these badges, it's not just theory. In order to earn these, there are 2 human eyes that review each one that gets submitted for these badges, and we make sure that there really is evidence of classroom impact on there. If you want to learn more about our micro-credential system and how your district can use it, it's not available for individual teachers. It is available for buildings and for districts. To jump on board with us and get a program set up, you can earn CEUs, or you can earn graduate credit through Ashland University for a separate fee for that as well. Check that out at forward-edge.net/EduU badges. Also want to make sure that we remind you that we do have opportunities available. We have folks, certified trainers who can help you and help your school, help your teachers get ready for the Google Educator Level 1 and 2 certifications. If you would like all of the teachers at your school to be Level 1 certified, or if you have a group of teachers who would like to get that Level 1 or Level 2 certification from Google as certified educators, We have boot camps to get you ready for those programs. Check that out at the address that you see there, forward-edge.net/certified Google Educator Bootcamp. Also, don't forget, we normally do these webinars on the third Wednesday of every month. We did this one a week early just to get in before everybody starts getting away for a holiday vacation. We'll be back on that schedule in 2019. January 16th, we will be talking about global connectedness in the classroom. Go to forward-edge.net/webinars for more info about that. We will hang around just a few more minutes. If you have any questions at all, you can throw those into the chat. If you are watching this archive, you can throw those questions in there as well. We thank you all for showing up, for attending our webinar today. We hope that you have found some tools that you can use with your class. Please let us know if you use any of these and you have found something to be particularly useful, you have a question about something, or you have another great tool that you just love that you think other people ought to know about. We would love to hear about those as well. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us today for this webinar. Have a great holiday. Have a great rest of your 2018, and we will see you in 2019.